Hello everyone, welcome to the stream. I will start by apologizing about the setup. I'm currently away from my usual setup, so the quality might be degraded a bit, but I think we'll manage. Let me grab my slides here. So welcome to the third episode of the Heroes Table. And as always, we'll start with a small introduction. Today we have our three usual heroes at the table here. We have Midnight, Talubius, and myself. And we'll be talking about the warrior today, and we will have the usual Q&A, and we might even see some other things like we also did last time. So I hope you guys are ready for that. But yeah, you guys can say hello to the viewers if you want.
Hello, this is Tal.
Hey everybody, how's it going?
Alright, so as I said, today is going to be about the warrior. So I don't know which of you want to put out the initial statement about it.
You wrote it, Tal. Go for it.
So yeah, the warrior. We didn't quite go as hard on the world building on the back of this one as we did the other two. So this one starts a little more vague, I guess, in terms of where we're starting out with the character, being part of a tribe that wanders the plains of eternity, and they're known for being generous and kind, but also fierce warriors when necessary. And the name of the tribe is the Eldrati Tribe. And when we are introduced to the warrior, his name is simply Child, because the Eldrati don't name their children until they complete a ritual of the passage that happens on their 16th year of age. And so the whole tribe gets together and then names the child based on the child's personality and place in the tribe, future potential. So the story starts out actually on the passage day for the child, and we see that he is getting prepared, and before he's able to, the campsite's attacked by some knights, and the knights are supposed to be, oh my goodness, we're lagging. Sorry, I got distracted.
How bad is it?
Mine keeps just like hard stop.
Okay, I'm trying to work on it on my end, but I can see my laptop is not taking this well, but I'll see what I can do. Just continue if it's not too bad.
Okay. So the knights of the knights of the Echelon are the king's knights, and they're known for being righteous and good, but for some reason they're attacking the tribe today. And so the knights are fighting the tribe. They've come upon them unaware, so they weren't prepared for this. And we see the child's father trying to protect the child. And in doing so, we see that the father calls down some power. And the tribe calls it the Holy Valkyr, power of the Holy Valkyr. And able to draw power in. And part of that ability is still a little bit of a mystery, but we know that it's tied to the crystals that we've spoken about on the other episodes. And it's allowed them to pull down lightning and to use it as a weapon. And so his father ends up killing a couple knights, and they are too many, and they end up killing his father. And so the child runs upon his father, pulls out the spear and throws it at one of the knights and manages to puncture through in the neck and get, knock that knight down. And a few other knights saw him and they were, out to get him. And so he jumps on his horse and runs to the forest where he is able to outpace them because he knows the forest so well. And so as they're chasing him, he finally realizes that, they're going to end up catching him. So he stops, climbs up on a tree, and then waits for them to come by. And he manages to jump down and get one of them, but the other one is too much for him. And before he gets killed, as he thinks he's going to, somebody puts an arrow through the knight, and that is a surprise to him, as he wasn't expecting to be saved. But out of nowhere comes the ranger, who we have not met yet, but her path and his path are tied closely together, and so we will hear more about her in her own story. But so she manages to save him from the knight. She's not sure what's going on, other than that, she was there at the right time to help him in this situation. And then they make their way back to the camp where the knights have cleaned up and moved away, and the child's very distraught, as it's still bad. Anyway, the ranger ends up taking him under his wing, but he still doesn't have a name. And so she asks him, "What would you like your name to be?" And he thinks it over and decides that he's going to call himself Eldred in memory of his tribe, and since he is the last one. And they pick up and they head out. And so that's a quick synopsis of that story.
Right, sounds good. Sorry, I'm just trying to see if I can do anything about the lag, but we might have to do what is suggested. Just take the Discord cams off. That might improve the performance. I'm not entirely sure, but we can try. So this time we can go without cams.
Okay.
Let's see if that solves something. I'm just gonna remove it here. You guys can just continue. I'll just remove these names.
Okay.
So, just had a couple of questions for you, Tal. Get your thoughts on this warrior character and his people. You don't, in the story, you sort of get dropped in the middle of this pivotal moment growing up. But what can you tell us a little bit about the warriors' people, who they are, and you said they live on the plains. Can you talk about them a little bit?
So yeah, they're a long descendants of some of the original settlers of that area, and they're very nomadic. They pretty much stick to the plains that are kind of, I guess, they're in basin kind of below the mountain area, which is where we get some of the crystal debris that flows on the area from the mountains, and that's kind of what we find as the mystery of the crystals and how that affects different people in different areas of the continent. And over time, we see that power slowly seeps into the tribe. And so they have, not super powerful, but latent, underlying power that they can draw upon. Unfortunately, in this situation, they were unprepared, terribly unprepared. for the attack, and it wasn't enough to help. So they are no more. I mean, and that's kind of the push point, for the warrior's character. Is how does he figure out, justice for what's happened?
So it sounds like, I mean, from the quick sort of fight we get, it sounds like they're pretty badass warriors. Seems fitting for the warrior. Are they like a warlike people? Are they more like fighting in terms of self-defense, or where how do you sort of envision them? Are they like strong yet capable pacifists, or do they fight their neighbors, or sort of how do you see them fitting in that spectrum?
Sure. I think that in general they're at peace with nature in a way that I think we all would have that understanding of tribal culture that's one with the land, if you will. They try to interact in a way that's honoring the land, both the animals and the vegetation. So the reason why they move around is because it's a better overall the time that they've been doing it. They've determined that it's better for the land if they don't stay in one place for too long. So you see them constantly moving around the plains, and the people who encounter them, find them quite pleasant, unless they're looking for them for nefarious reasons or trying to steal from them. Then it's a different story. But I mean, they spend their time mostly, dealing with getting food and building, seeking shelter. I mean, that's just being able to be out in the nature is their goal. So there's really no other higher purpose for them other than enjoying every day and being able to be with the ones they love and offer a hand when it's needed, and so that's kind of the underlining, culture that they're about. Excuse me. I didn't have to talk this much last time, so no. So they are warriors, but they're not warriors in the sense of ones of aggression and conquest. Definitely way more defensive in nature. Protective, I guess, would be a good word.
So, you have these, sounds like they only like fight when provoked or attacked. So can you tell us anything about the echelon, these knights that attack them? You mentioned that they are known for, being the good guys, essentially being just warriors. Do we have any idea why they would attack the warrior's family? It seems sort of out of character for them.
So at this point in our long-term winding story, we haven't come upon them yet. This is our first, interaction with them. And so what we think we know about them and what's actually happened don't coincide together. So I don't want to go too far into it because I don't want to impose on some of the other stories, but we'll just say that, the knights had a history of being what you would consider a standard chivalry, righteous type of knight. But something's happened, and from the Eldrati's perspective, they don't have any idea what's happened, why the change, what caused this to happen. The machinations that are happening above them in terms of the political and nature of the king, who sent them. That it's unknown to them. They have no idea, what's happening. And we and the people that continue to read our stories and play the game will find that there's a lot going on at the upper end of the political spectrum that's falling down around the planet. And this is just one iteration where we see how it interfaces with one specific culture. And we'll see more of this as we go on to other stories and all the connections that get made. And what ends up, as we've talked, brings them all together at some point, down the line when they're on the island. And, one of the things that we've tried to do with these stories is the connections of people, because, part of what we're going to get through the gameplay is, I guess, like character combos, and I know we've talked about that with the devs. And I think that making these connections makes really good, story parallel to gameplay. And so the ranger and the warrior, or like last week we talked about the augur and the vampire, and there's lots of connections that'll be happening through the stories. And so we'll, really see that and see those connections and what they mean for the gameplay, which is important that all this stuff ties together. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned those connections and the different characters, and in this story we end up with this sort of mystery person appearing out of nowhere shooting arrows. What if anything do we know about them and any connection to either the warriors people or who this person is? It sounds like the warrior's familiar with the woods. So I'm just curious if they have any connection or sort of a totally new person.
Yeah. So, okay. So I got a little, I don't know, creative with some of the interconnections in terms of us trying to tie in. We have like different layers of, I don't know, like we have like the celestial side of the conflicts, and then we have the corporal side of conflicts, and the ranger had been called upon by another character that we haven't discussed yet. And so she's been given this mission. I don't want to go too much because that's her story, and I want to talk about that when we get to that. But she's there because she's been asked to be there, and other than that, like they have no common connection between them other than like somebody high above knew this was going to happen somehow and used their ability to manipulate, or not manipulate, but just push things to happen, kind of like just I don't know, maybe like chess playing in a way, like I'm going to move this person over here. And so that's kind of what's happening here, is that she's getting pushed to that area to where he's at to try and, keep him alive. So
she doesn't seem so happy about it. You want to sort of talk about, maybe how, I know we'll introduce her later on, but this sort of like moment where, he's just a kid and she sort of shows up out of nowhere and helps him.
Yeah, well, she didn't really, so she's not she's a reluctant interloper in the situation. Like, I guess you could say it is like a situation where it's like she's like, all right, well, I guess I can do it, but I don't really want to. But I guess, if you're gonna ask me nicely, I suppose I could do it. Kind of situation where. So part of this too is trying to bring in like real personalities and not just like cliche. Everyone's good and everyone's, there's definitely layers of personal desires of what they're trying to achieve, I guess, and what they're wanting to accomplish, because everybody's got different angles at where they're coming from when they're, eventually when they group up, and they start taking on, some of the quests and adventures. I mean, it's like, especially when we get into some of the other characters, like you're really going to see like they're together as a group, but they're not. I mean, it's just not honky dory, It's more the real world, I guess. Dating myself. But yeah, it was fun to write. I really enjoyed the interconnecting of the characters and trying to think about how we're all doing. I mean, it's a multiple person thing here, and I'll just shout out to Heimdall for going over and doing a final edit and just kind of cleaning it up, because he's very, very good at that. And it also brings in a consistency, because after, he's pretty much going through all of these and giving them a very consistent cadence, I guess, a speed of talk in terms of like the way it's flowing. I mean, it's like none of us are, I'm not a professional.
Yeah.
Sorry, right? But I've read thousands of novels and I enjoy doing this kind of thing. It goes well with, being a dungeon master and coming up with stories for games. So,
yeah. I have to say one thing I really enjoyed about the warrior story and that relationship, and part of why I was like asking about it, and because I really enjoy this warrior ranger relationship, because it's kind of funny. It's like, the two previous stories we've seen are like dramatic, if you will. There's lots of stuff and it's like dark and whatever. But with the ranger and the warrior, that interaction is, her being reluctant to this kid, saving this kid, and then sort of dismissing him is like kind of funny. So I have to say I really enjoyed that like levity and that sort of chance to chuckle at this person that's like, yeah, I saved you. Like, fine, I guess.
Let's go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, it gets better in her story because I took that to the next level in the so I really enjoy doing like character banter, and I think that'll be real apparent in the Ranger story because that's the kind of stuff I like to read. I think each of us kind of have our different personalities when it comes to writing this stuff, and I think it's not like right or wrong. It's more of a personal preference, and I think because of the different personalities we all have as, the creators of the stories, like we get to see that variety. And I really like that, because I think once we see more overlap and when we end up getting into more like long, form narratives, because these are really just short form for the most part. We'll see much more the plot will start to come together a little better, and we'll be able to piece that all together. So I feel like it's going to be a nice puzzle where we're fitting like really good world building along with good character interaction. So
absolutely agree. I am excited to keep showing everybody parts of this world and piecing it together, especially the warrior ranger relationship.
Yeah, I tell you what, I actually let my wife read it, and she thought it was pretty humorous. So that was pretty good. So I mean, I made myself laugh, but that's not saying much. So
no, I definitely enjoyed reading both of the stories, so I'm looking forward to showing the other side of this to everybody.
Thank you.
So so we talked about like the warrior and how they like kind of the origin, I guess, of how they are. How does the warrior story relate to the other stories we have discussed, like the vampire and the ogre? Like, do they have any relation at this point, or are they kind of separated for now? Can you elaborate on that, maybe?
Sure. So the connections are probably more like, I don't know, geographical in nature, because I mean, really, we've got our different kingdoms, and we've discussed the one kingdom, the Vampiria kingdom. We haven't really discussed the other kingdom until now, really. I mean, because the first two were just really about Vampiria and the augur, looking for his powers to be able to help, his wife. And so those are, kingdoms that exist on the same continent. And the planes that we see here, or that we've been talking about, are in what we've been calling the Mad King, because I don't think we have a name yet, but the Mad King. And we've been working on and I think we still have some little bit to work to do on the cartography part of this, but the mountains where we find the crystals originally, and the connection there is that storms over time have carried particles of the crystals down to the plains, and in doing so have seeped into the land and the people, and different people react differently to the crystals, and that's going to be a big theme. And crystals have different powers, and there's going to be a lot about that as we go forward in some of the stories. So I feel like really the crystals are like the connecting point of everything, and what that means with what we've called the Dominiae, which was the celestials in power, and ultimately the long run plot of the story.
So for now, there is no direct relationship between like Vampiria and the warrior kingdom for now.
Correct.
Okay. So are they aware of each other, or are there no connection because they don't know of each other at this point?
They would, I mean, like as any, I would say any, bordering continents or bordering countries would need to know of each other. I would say that the warriors would know enough to avoid, Vampiria because of the situation that they're in, but that darkness didn't make its way to the plains where they're at.
So this particular story takes place after Vampiria has been swallowed by this darkness.
Yeah, so I envision this as being many, many, many years later.
Okay.
That's, seeing, I think the crystal evolution of finding them and then the distributing of them around the planet is kind of a long-term thing that happens. And so, and also the vampire and the augur obviously have different lifespans. And so, it made sense to me that we would have varying time frames when these things are happening and still have them all interconnect.
Yeah, definitely. So, what else do we know about the warrior in that? Like, what is his next quest, so to say? Where does he go from here?
Sure. So, well, I left it a little open-ended at the end of the story. Essentially, he just is taken under the ranger takes him under her wing. And what we don't know is why she's done that and what her goals are for doing that, but we will find that out in the later story. So for now, he's a child, and the main thing is that he has this inner desire to get justice one day for what's happened to his tribe, and he really doesn't have much options. He can either go with her or just be by himself, and he's a kid, so I mean he's smart enough to know that this is probably a better option for him. So as far as the ranger goes, she's she has her own motives for this.
So we'll basically get more of a continuation of the warrior story in the ranger story as well, but it'll be a story about the ranger, but it'll also kind of continue the story of the warrior.
Yeah, so that story actually takes place further down the line from this story, where the warrior is actually an adult, and you will see them interact in a way that I wanted people to see how they are as their personalities and how they interact together, because it's that interaction that I enjoyed writing, because I'd use some real life people to do that, because that's how a lot of times it works with writing. And it's like I tried to pull some of the more humorous things that I've witnessed or heard people talk about, and it just kind of makes me laugh to think about being able to take that and put it into a story,
Yeah, definitely. So while I was busy with trying to fix all the lag problems, so I might not have gotten all the details from the initial explanation. But has the warrior at this point had kind of like a life-changing experience or something, maybe not tragic or like the opposite of tragic, something really good or really bad? It's because we know from the vampire story and the augur story, they had this event that changed some things. Like, does the warrior have something similar to that, or was it pretty much just you just get through things and then you get in trouble and then the ranger comes in and saves him?
Well, I tell you, I mean, it's a little on the nose, but I mean, tying the situation to the ritual was obviously on purpose, because the passage day is the day that they get named by the tribe. And so one way or the other, the day was going to be have importance to the child. We just didn't know like where it was going to. I didn't even know it was going to go until I got done writing. I was like, oh, I see what I'm doing here. So because it's more of a, we're trying to find, so the, I don't want to go too esoteric here, but we don't have those same passages that humanity used to have when we were tribal or we maybe, high school might be like, and then I don't even know if, I mean, in America, it's, high school's that rite of passage, you go from youth to adulthood, and a lot of who you are when you're older is because of that. And it shapes you and defines you. And I was trying to, have that similar type of situation happen here prior to the knight showing up. Like, this is what happens to the tribe. Like, they grow up, the tribe determines, hey, this is what your personality shows. It's a special day. And then after that day, they're, they have a name, like the big deal. And so he had to name himself, which had never been done before in the history of the tribe. And that's what makes this special for him, in that it is a tragedy and he's lost everything and all he has is his name. And that's it.
All right, so we are just about at the 40-minute mark here. So if you guys in the chat has any questions, you guys can start putting them in the chat, and I'll relay them here so we can answer them. Otherwise, I guess I will start with some more questions. I will also try to get some live play on the stream if my laptop can handle it. So we'll see how that goes. But I guess the first question I have is, which part do you think was the most fun to write about in this story?
The best part was actually the end of the story, so my original, what we have here is an edited version of what I originally wrote, and it's better. But where originally I wrote her just being like, I don't care what your name is, kid, like, and he's like, my name is this, and she's like, whatever, let's go. Like, completely, I don't care. Like, it's bad enough I have to be here and I got to deal with you. I don't care about your name, and I think Heimdall did a good rewrite on that, and it makes her more likable, because mine was more of like, whatever, like, I can't believe I got to deal with you, But that part actually led me into some really good, I think, banter in the Ranger story.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm gonna switch the scene here, and you guys are gonna see how the game looks right now. Again, a big disclaimer: this is like very alpha, so this might change, and anything you see here might not be how the final game is gonna be, or even any part of the final game. But it should be representative of at least how we envision that the battles sections, at least of the game, are gonna work at this time. So just keep in mind that this is early stuff, so it might change for the final version. So let me just switch over to it here, and hopefully everything will go fine. Can you guys confirm that I got the correct characters? I think this is the selection we are allowed to show, right?
I'm still showing the slide.
I have the warrior, vampire, Auga, and ranger.
Yeah, wait, the ranger. I'm not sure the ranger. Yeah, I'm not sure the rangers.
What was the last one?
Sorry, it's warrior, assassin.
Assassin.
Auger, vampire.
All right, we got it. Thanks. Right, so I'm gonna start the adventure now, and I don't know if you guys, Midnight, maybe have some questions about the process. I guess you have a little bit more experience in writing as well, so maybe you have some questions that could be interesting to know about the process for Tal, what he did in this story.
Yeah, I don't know. I know I touched on the levity of it and really enjoyed that part of it. And to me, it's really interesting because, like, in writing these stories, I guess I always tend to like dark, brooding, tragedy. And it's just funny to someone goes to the total opposite of like, has this tragedy, but then, interjects the tragedy with comedy. I think it's really funny. Just to see our different styles and processes like that. Definitely want to give a big shout out to Heimdall, who's done a great job of helping all of us refine and, get a better flow with the stories. Just curious, like, why the planes for these guys? Did you have, like, is there something that you saw or envisioned in your mind about the warrior and his people that sort of pushed you to place them on the plains?
Oh, I mean, so taking the visual look of the character, I thought of kind of like a I don't know, a good, not really the Highlands, but kind of like the plains of like a smaller kingdom where you have wandering people and I don't know the proper term to use. I know what we used to call them, but I'm not sure that's appropriate anymore. But or like even from like from we hear about from like the Transylvania, we have those types of wandering cultures, and that's, in my mind, that's kind of where I got that from, was like they kind of wander the plains. They're not trying to be anything, you know what I mean? Like they're just living life every day, and that's eating and survival and being in community with each other, and that's that is their goal.
Right.
And so he has all that in him, right? So he's going to have a natural understanding of what that means. They're still having lag problems.
Yeah, it's still lagging a little bit with the game.
Yeah, my laptop is really struggling streaming and running the game. It's apparently very, very tough. But if it's too bad, then I guess either one of you can play the game, and then you can just send me the link, and I can put it in. Then we should be able to like see your guys' name, your guys' game, and maybe it'll run. Actually, it might be equally bad because it's not streaming the game; it's actually running the events.
Right.
So it might just be that maybe this laptop is not good at streaming and running the game. I'm pretty sure it would run the game just fine without the stream, but streaming and gaming is tough.
Yeah. Well, we'll get this figured out. It's only our third episode. So.
Absolutely. 3 episodes in. We did get some really good gameplay last time, really smooth. So if folks are sort of interested in seeing it with the full setup, it will be next week. And after that, then definitely check out the second episode. Last 20 minutes has some really good gameplay in it.
Yeah, and we should also have that. I should be back at my usual setup next week. So next week we will be back to the good stuff again.
Absolutely. Awesome.
Great.
Well, I'm really interested in seeing. So you're talking about with the warrior how they have this sense of community and just wanting to sort of live and thrive, in not in conflict with nature, but sort of with nature and all, everyone around them. And I will be very curious to see where that goes with, as these heroes come together, how that background for him sort of plays into pulling all of these different people together. You can already tell just in the 3 stories we've talked about that there's these really different characters that are all coming together in some way. They're fighting together, so they'll come together in some way, and I'm sure we'll discuss that later on. But I'm very curious to see how the warrior plays a role in that, and in this sort of band of misfits, if you will, almost.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think his personality will show that his intent is to see everyone get to their goal. He's that kind of team player type of person. So I don't think everyone will be that way, and that's where you're going to see conflict.
Yeah.
As they're moving forward in the story. But
especially with the Ranger, she doesn't seem to be a team player with anybody. So, that's it's a very interesting, dichotomy there between sort of the epitome of team player and community success and the total opposite of that, and sort of individualized success and succeeding on their own. So,
well, and she's operating by I guess the best way I could say it is like she is trying her best to achieve a goal that's been given to her.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And she's not like it's not like, oh, I've been bestowed this great honor, wonderful. It's more like the inconvenience of this is like, why am I doing this? We're back to that. And I just so she's not a bad person, she had another idea of what was going to happen for her life, and then this completely upended it, and so she's dealing with that part of it. So it's, and as when we'll meet some more because we do have some more characters that are extremely individual. I would say that she's mid-range compared to a few of the other ones we have that are when people will find out, they're going to get a kick out of it. So I'm real excited to bring in some more of the other characters, because I think as we go forward, we do see a lot of more stories interwoven, and then connections start making sense. So, it's hard now when we're sitting here and talking about made up stories for good video games. Like it's one of those suspension of disbelief things.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I don't think I've ever talked for like 40 minutes before, so that's
well, ask my wife. I'll talk for 40 minutes on a regular basis. So. I sort of find it hard almost to, as we're progressing through this, to not pull into other stories too deeply. But, we definitely, looking at our list, we have a bunch that are coming. So hopefully we can sort of explore more of this nuance of the characters as we see them get sort of woven together and release the stories publicly in a written form, so that everyone can see them and then start putting things together for themselves. And on top of these discussions that we have, I think it'll almost make it easier to talk about them, because you don't have to worry too much about getting into something else that's not really on there. But
yeah, well, we have a lot of characters, and so there's a lot of story, compared to I think what you would consider at least a probably like a current NFT type game. Yeah. I think we're trying to maybe elevate that a little bit with good lore and good character interaction, and not just, you know, flip a coin, and nothing. You know what I mean? Like there's no soul. You know, there's no. I don't care about any of this. You know what I mean? And that's to me, that's the sad part of it. I want to care about the characters, and I want to see a story that actually progresses over time. Right. That shows effort being put into it from not just us, but also the community, you know?
Yeah.
I also think it's going to be very interesting when we can start talking about like all the stories in unison, because we've like covered everything. So we can start like talking about the greater scheme of things.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I mean, I know we've got, you know, stuff planned for after launch too, you know, and there's just so much I'm excited to talk about a lot of stuff that hopefully we can eventually. So it's hard to bite in my tongue sometimes.
Absolutely. I will definitely be interested to see. I think, you know, we definitely want the community. Like I think everyone's mentioned, we want the community to help us drive this world forward. But, you know, at this point, we're just sort of introducing it. So I'm really curious to see when all the story, all the character backstories sort of come together, what the community sees as the future. Yeah. And in some cases, the past for some of these characters.
Absolutely. I feel like we're simply seeding it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's, you know, our goal is to seed it with the baseline part, and then let's see where everyone wants it to go, you know, because I think that's where I feel like there's some magic there that isn't being harnessed, you know, in the space that we're in. There's a lot of creativity from a lot of people that could be, you know, put into a game like this where we can see, you know, excellent storylines with, you know, character interactions. And I don't know, for me, sometimes it's as much about the story as it is about anything. So,
definitely.
Right. I think that sort of feeds into this, this dynamic change that we're really focusing on with Eternity, where it's not play to earn, it's play and earn. So, you know, part of that investment from the community and part of building the community is getting the characters to invest, or getting the community to invest in the characters so that they want to play. And then the return is just the bonus. But you're playing a game that you enjoy, that is interesting and deep, not only in gameplay, but also in story. You know, we've already joked about like writing, having an anthology for Eternity. And you know, that's, in my mind, that's the goal, is if we can get these backstories and we can get the community interested and involved in building this world. And, you know, there's all these